From the Ticats Audio Network, this is Speaking with the Enemy.
Tiger Cats pregame as presented by Journey Rewards keeps on rolling. Welcome back to Tim Hortons Field, just about 35 minutes before kickoff. Bubba O'Neill along with Andy Fantuz, and it's time for our Speaking with the Enemy segment. So let's welcome TSN 1200, or Redblacks Analyst, Nolan McMillan. Thanks for joining us there, Nolan.
Thanks, Bubba.
You know, obviously this is a huge game for both teams. Both teams really searching for that first win. But before we go forward, I think we have to do some justice and look backwards a little bit. How do the Ottawa Redblacks move on from what was such a controversial week with, I'll call it Marino Gate?
Absolutely. I think, speaking for myself, I'm ready to move forward from that. And I think Sean Burke is ready to move forward too. And I think a big part of that was him bringing in Nick Arbuckle so quickly.
Yeah, what a terrible, situation for Mazzoli and the CFL in a whole. But on that note, is this Caleb Evans' team now? Is it his turn to shine, or is he kind of just filling in time until Nick Arbuckle is up to speed with the offense and ready to go?
I think that's kind of a wait-and-see situation. The last time Caleb Evans started, he walked away with a win there in the season finale in Montreal. I heard that he was very impressive in training camp, and I think that he's got a lot to prove coming off last year's performance. So I think depending on today's outcome, he might be the starter going forward.
So that's like win and he keeps going, or is it sort of like how does he play? Does he mistake free? Does he make good reads? Is it more subjective choice, or is it just a W or an L kind of choice?
I personally never liked the two quarterback system. I think you got to pick a guy and go with him. And so I think that if he plays well and he shows the things that LaPolice is looking for, I think that he has the team going forward.
You talked about head coach Paul LaPolice right now, and of course, I think you get this kind of pressure everywhere. What's the feel in Ottawa right now? I don't think anyone in terms of Hamilton or Ottawa in terms of their fan base expected 0-4 starts.
Absolutely not. With the work that they did in the offseason, expectations were high coming in, and we've played a tough schedule so far, but there's no excuses and there's no moral victories in this league. Ultimately, this is a results-driven business, and both teams are coming in 0-4. Fortunately, one team will certainly have a win, barring a tie today.
Well, last year the biggest problem I think with the Ottawa team was that the offense, the lack of production as a whole, and of course scoring. Now, making all the moves like you mentioned in the offseason, the yardage went up, the excitement level, it was an air attack, but still having trouble getting in the end zone. And I know that's one of Paul LaPolice's biggest issues. Is the defense and the special teams still kind of keeping this team into games, or is this? Do you feel like the offense is starting to figure out the way to click to actually punch it in and get some points?
I was very encouraged down the stretch against BC. The offense was really able to turn it on and make it a game there. I think with this team, we haven't put together a complete game in all three phases yet. Everybody's kind of taking their turns. There's been a lot of big plays given up on defense. Offense, like you mentioned, they haven't been able to score in the red zone. So, they need to put a complete game together, and it's unfortunate that Mazzoli is not playing this week, but that's just the reality, and I think Caleb Evans is going to play well.
It's crazy when you're 0-4 that you're kind of saying this. We're all kind of saying the same things about these football teams. It's insane. Hey, when you're trying to move forward and you're looking at the standings and the big picture of things, Andy and I were talking about this off camera and off radio right now, that what is with this East Division right now? Does it make any sense to you why one division in a 9-team league is so much better than the other?
It's hard to explain. I think that there's a few reasons about that. I think that the trend in free agency is that guys want to go back closer to home. And I think that was really apparent after the pandemic. Two guys that I played with, two really outstanding offensive linemen, Evan Johnson and Mark Cordy, they both made the conscious decision to go back and play in their hometowns. So I don't know if Ontario needs more grassroots football and to really develop more of their players, but it's definitely a problem.
Do you think the level of play of the Ontario teams is that much lower than and I guess we could include Montreal.
Yeah.
Is the East that much worse than the West in your opinion, or is it just the way, a few plays could have changed different games, and this 2-14 East team right now, when they go do the West stretch next time through, will it be a different outcome?
I'd say going back even to 2014 when I first entered the league, I mean, the West has been considered stronger, dating all the way back to then. So I think it's a longer stemming problem than just a couple close games. And I don't really have a clear explanation for why that is.
Well, I'm not going to say I completely agree. I think that whoever does come out of the East will have a good shot to win the Grey Cup.
Absolutely.
And, I know here in Hamilton, the feeling is that this is still a Grey Cup caliber team. Just clearly at 0-4, you are what your record says you are. But little adjustments and fixes and just finishing and cleaning up turnovers might really change that record, the way it looks. And I know, I'm sure down the road in Toronto they feel the same. Does Ottawa kind of have that feeling? What's the morale or the sense in both the locker room and in the community on how this team is going to fare in the long run this year?
Absolutely. I think that expectations were high with the fan base coming in. We've had 2019 was rough, 2020 canceled, 2021 was rough again. So they signed the firepower that they needed to start producing, and so far we haven't been able to produce a win. So I think the fan base is frustrated. I think the players are frustrated, but I think that they are still buying in, and I think that they're going to show up today desperate for the win.
What's the mood of the head coach, though? I mean, and comes. This is just the reality of this business. Some general managers, some owners don't have patience for their coach, and sometimes moves have to be made. Do you think Paul Police is in a good place right now?
I don't think that he's in a great place. I think that the seat is certainly a little warm. I mean, you are what your record says you are, and you're 0-4. And whichever team falls to 0-5 today, that's going to be tough. It's going to be very tough. So, I mean, a lot can change in a year in this league. Roster turnover is huge. You can completely revamp your team every offseason. So I think that sets the expectations high for winning right away, and they haven't met those expectations.
We got a lot of ex-Ticats on the Ottawa team now, a lot of big names as well. Is there any sense of, extra energy coming back and playing their first game back here in Hamilton? What's your take on that?
I think always the competitor in these guys wants to show up and show out whenever you're coming back to where you used to be familiar territory. So I think that will play a factor as well.
Folks, we've been speaking with the enemy, with Redblacks analyst Nolan McMillan. Thank you for checking in with us, and hey, have a great broadcast.
Thanks, fella.